welcome to Cottage Treasures Quilting again. My name's Alain Dupuis. We've done this fantastic Cat-i-tude quilt. We call it Opposites Attract. We went for a big yin and yang feel. So today we're going to go through how to put this together. These are available on our store in a kit at cottagetreasures.store. So basically, the panels come with the Cat-i-tude cats on them, and you cut out, there's 6 of them that come in the kit. We used 5 for the center panel, and then we used our 6th one kind of fussy cut and put them at the bottom. So the way that this quilt works is it's 3 separate panels that you put together, stripped down like this. So you'll end up sewing the 5 cats together and sewing up or another panel beside it with a Shadowbox paisleys over here, and the same thing you're going to do on this side with another Shadowbox. We're going to show you how to do the Shadowbox and do them on a 45-degree angle so it looks like a shadow or the box is popping out at you. And then we did a border, small 1-inch border around the whole quilt, and again opposites. And then we did a final border, 4 inches paisley around the whole quilt. And our theme was to jump back and forth, so if you had a black background you used a white shadow, white used a black, and then as well as the borders we did the opposites. And it's hard to see, but you can see the paisley's white on black and this one's the black on the white border. So yeah, we're going to show you how to build this quilt. So we're going to start doing the first set of borders around our Cat-i-tude panels that we've cut out into some nice squares, and we're going to be doing a Shadowbox effect. So whatever color the inside of our Cat-i-tude square is, we're going to do a shadow with the opposite color, and then the rest of the border will be in the color matching the Cat-i-tude box. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and start one of the corners, and it's going to be a miter. So it's going to be black on the bottoms, the bottom and the side, and then we're going to end up having a 45-degree angle coming off where it connects to the white borders. So at the end it'll look something like that. So we'll start with making a miter. So what I like to do is lay my pieces beside it so I know that I'm folding this the right way to do the box. So 45 degrees is going to look like that once I've sewn it. So that'll work. I'm going to be sewing right here. So I lay the 2 pieces on top of each other, and if this is just black and both sides, white on both sides, the fabric's the same. If your fabric is not the best quality, or it's printed on one side and not the other, you're going to want to make sure the 2 good sides are facing each other before you do this. Grab my Mark Bugon pen, and once more I'm just going to hold that there and make sure that's exactly what I'm going to want it to do. So mark this. Just a nice little line to see where I'm going. Take this over. Sometimes it's a little finicky getting these 2 squares in there. So I'm just going to sew on that line. I like to do a little back stitch first, just to lock it in. Sew down that line, and when I get to the end of the line, I like to do the back stitch. And then when we open this, you'll see that we've got a nice miter. So now I'm going to cut this off 1/4 inch seam allowance. Iron the seam down. Alright, so now we can go ahead and sew this one onto the quilt. This is up here. And I just match my corner up right with the corner on the panel we've already cut. That way once the 1/4 inch seam sew around the whole end, it'll actually end up meeting up with the perfectly once the 1/4 inch has been allowed on the other piece border you sew on. So sew this together once more, make sure that's right in the corner. And again, I'm going to start probably a 1/4 inch into it already. And I'm going to do my back stitch. And then I'm going to go forward. And just sew in a 1/4 inch from the end of the fabric. Double check, make sure this is in line. And once I get to the end, I'm just going to do a couple stitches backwards. Cut it there. Now I'm going to trim these edges off, square with where the panel was the first time. Is right beside it. Make sure that you're bending it the right way. So that's the way I'm going to want it right there. So I'll take this over here. This on top. Line's going to go across here. It's alright, Tippy.
Hello, Tippy.
Now back stitch. Just a couple. So I've matched up the corner, just kind of the point with the points, and then I'm going to start over here. I'm not too worried, it's not a very long distance for it to fall off of sync of where I want it to be. I'm starting about a 1/4 inch, go back, stitch, and then 1/4 inch seam all the way. This is still when I get to the end, I'm going to do a couple back stitches. And you can see that these ended at roughly a 1/4 inch away from the end, which will help for once our white border is on there. It should match up in the corner. So now I can just go ahead and sew this piece on there. Just match the two raw edges up and 1/4 inch seam. Alright, there you go. The miters did pretty good actually to meet right on the line. So we have 2 of our white ones, and then we have 3 of our black ones for this quilt. And all the miters and borders are done for the first step. We'll move on to the next step. So we finished doing our shadow border around our square panel. And now we're going to add another border to kind of finish off bordering around the shadow box. So you can see in these examples, whatever the color of the inside square is, we're going to add the border on the outside, and we did it in white over here as well. You can see it's white on the inside, so the final big borders on the outside are white. So we're adding a 1.5 inches to the top and the bottom, which after your seam allowance will turn into just a 1-inch border. And then on the side, we're adding a 4.5 inch border, which will equal 4 inch once the 2/4 inch seam allowances are taken up. So you just go ahead and sew the small ones on the top and bottom and the big ones on the side. So the last one, and I may have forgotten to mention before, but every time I start, I like to do a back and forth stitch real quick, just to kind of lock it in there, because when I'm squaring it up later, I might cut through some of my threads, and I don't want the edges to start coming apart on me. So I go forward, go backward, and then start the stitch. Check along the way, make sure it's still on my line. And then again at the end I go back and forth a little bit. And there you go. I've got the borders around the borders. And then it just helps accent that shadow box that we made in the first place.
Yeah, it looks really good.
And so now all of our cats are going to get sewn black, white, black to create the pattern that we have for the design of our quilt. Okay, so we've done our 5 Shadowbox cats for our Cat-i-tude. So now I'm not worried about squaring off the ends yet. I'm going to worry about that when we trim it and square it off later. But I do want the center of the cats to meet up. So what I'm going to do is, I know that these 2 seams right here make these cats perfectly centered, and if I even lie down my ruler on the straight edge there of the panel, you can see that the straight edges meet up. So you can use pins or just go for it. I'm going to flip it over because you want the one cat upside down, and match up these corners right here so that these two seams are matched, and sew across that line. So we're doing another shadow box, and this will be an accent on the other sides of the quilt. So kind of just to keep the yin yang theme going. It's the same thing. We're going to be putting the white on white this time though. But we're shadowing it with the contrast color so you can see. So it's kind of the same as the white inside the cat goes onto the white border. Same with here, the white goes on the white, and then we shadow it accordingly. So we're going to have the white one on the white side and the black one on the black side. So again, I'm doing my mitered corners. So I had a little bit extra color that I don't want in the quilt, but it'll fall into my 1/4" seam, so I don't have to really worry about it too much. And I just match my corner up. And I like to have my other foot that just gives me my little 1/4". Ready to go, and then you can see the black looks good with the white border. So for this part of the quilt, we are getting ready to square it off, trim up the edges so we can put the final border around the outside. You watched us complete the center with all the shadow boxes and sewing them together, so that was the center panel. Then we've added a panel on each side, one white, one black, and we've done one accent shadow box. And we did this shadow box the same way we had done it on the cats in the middle. So we did that, sewn one long strip off the bottom, and the same for the white side to match the length of our already center panel. So now I'm going to square it up. So all I did was fold the quilt in half and line up the edge. And we had already squared our center panel, so I have that lined up here, lined up on the edges, and I can already see that I have some extra on here, which is the way we had done it. So it's better to have more than have it too short. So we'll go ahead and cut this part. Just line it along what it's already square and cut that off. Just need my cutting board. that last little bit right there. So we finished the borders. We did a simple 1-inch border, so 1.5 inches, and then you lose your 2/4 inch seam allowance. So a 1-inch border, just again, opposites, white on the black and the black on the white. And then we did a 4-inch. So we cut it at 4.5 because then our seam allowance, and once our binding goes on, we'll bring it down to 4-inch. And you can see the black in the back of these paisleys and the white. So we did the same thing, white on black and black on white. And it looks fantastic. So the next part is to bring it over to the cutting table and square it up a little bit. No, we can do that after we quilt it. So we're going to baste it with some batting and backing and get ready to start quilting. And then we'll go ahead and show you some of the designs we've picked to quilt on this Cat-i-tude. We're calling this Cat-i-tude Opposites Attract, and so far so good. We're enjoying it. So now I finished the feathers on the inside and the outside of this pattern. So what I've been doing is filling the center in with a micro meander. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you on this one what it looks like. And it's just really random. And keep them really close together. And there you see, center's filled out. Nice delicate touch to the inside. So I'm drawing the heart pattern that I'm going to do over here on the white side. So they're quite intricate and I don't get to see the whole thing because I'm doing it on the home machine, so I find it a lot easier if I draw it out first, and then as I'm going I might defer from using the line I've already drawn, but at least I have a nice template to go by. So I'm doing a heart with some feathers. And then later on, I'm going to do a little echo inside and maybe some filigree. And then I'm also going to do feathers on the outside. And it's going to look similar to these circles I've done over here, where I'm going to have a border with some pebbles in between, and then both feathers on the inside and the outside. And then here's the fill-in I've been doing. I've done up here, already quilted one. Here's a giant paisley that like that, and you can see it again. Here's the border, and then feathers on the inside, feathers on the outside. They're quite elaborate, so drawing them sure does help. And then I just spray that away once I've finished quilting it. So yeah, I'm going to finish drawing the heart and then go ahead and start quilting it. So our Cat-i-tude kit came with 6 cats, and the middle panel only used 5, so we cut the last one out and we added them in last minute with kind of a zigzag. Not quite a satin stitch, but a zigzag. So I just went ahead and pinned him down, and now I'm just zigzagging, stitching him right over top. He jumps into some of my quilted area. Nice little cat to accent the end and kind of pop through the border. So we finished it. We've shown you how to build this quilt. Cat-i-tude, opposites attract. Had a blast building this one as well, and had a lot of fun with the free motion quilting on this one. So Delilah will come in here and I'll show you some of the end product of the free motions. We did a paisley here. The hearts, love the hearts. Got a figure 8 down there by the cat. And we did some diamonds. And I just used household items. This is my 6x6 square. The heart just freehand, and the paisley freehand. The circle is actually the outside of one of my ribbon cases. And yeah, the free motion was my favorite part about this quilt. And the fantastic Cat-i-tude cats and paisleys. I really like the Cat-i-tude fabric. I'm happy we got our hands on some and we're able to build this quilt. So come visit us online, cottagetreasures.store. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please leave any comments or any constructive criticism that you want to share with us. This is Cottage Treasures Quilting. Until next time, my name is Alain Dupuis. Have a fantastic day.